Now, still with those news, Eskom has downgraded power cuts to stage 4 until Sunday morning. It's hoped that it will then be downgraded even further to stage 3. Now, it says generating units at Grootvlei, Camden, Creel and Majuba have now been returned to service, but it still warns that the system remains constrained. Now, this is because the utility is still working on 5 units at various power stations. Now, Business Unity South Africa says Andre De Ruyter's resignation is a major blow to Eskom. It says this will hurt efforts to address the energy crisis. The organisation blames what it calls irresponsible comments by some in government for him stepping down. So let's get more from Busa CEO Cas Coovadia, who joins me this morning to take this conversation forward. Cas, always a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for your time. It seems you're of the opposing view of some, such as NUM that we've spoken to this morning, who say that it's a relief for Andre to leave. They warmly welcome this resignation. You believe, on the other hand, it's a blow. Why so?
Yeah, because I think that in the midst of the sort of crisis that Eskom has, to then have a new CEO come in, even though Andre is staying until the end of March, to have a new CEO come in, the new CEO needs time to actually get on his feet, acclimatize, get into the job. It's got to take us back for a period of time in addressing the problems we have. We believe that the problems at Eskom are not just operational problems. They are a myriad of very complex issues, including sabotage and law and order issues and so on. And under those circumstances, we believe that Andre was pulling together a team, was beginning to make an impact. The load shedding issue, because everybody talks about the load shedding issue. The load shedding issue will only be addressed if more private sector generation comes in and gets onto the grid. And if you look at the embedded energy projects, there's over 100 projects now on the go, which will only come onto the grid in about 2 years. So irrespective of who is in that position, we're not going to stop load shedding tomorrow. So what we're saying is that Andre's been working with a board that's at 50% capacity until this board was actually put into place. We welcomed the appointment of the board, and we felt that now with a board that certainly on paper appeared to have the technical people on as directors, a full board, and then Andre there as a CEO who's been there for a couple of years, the two could actually work together to really begin to make an impact. And so we believe it is a blow. And whatever is the reason for resigning, we don't know. But we wouldn't welcome the resignation. We think that it's a problem.
How would you rate government support when it came to Andre's tenure as Eskom CEO?
Yeah, so just to correct something, we didn't say in the statement that irresponsible statements from some people in government as a cause for his resignation, said that it just made a very complex job even more difficult. And what we certainly find is that mixed messages from government on Eskom, on the energy transition, do not help. Because it makes it very difficult for any CEO at Eskom to interact with a shareholder, who to account to, what the shareholder is actually thinking about policy and about strategy. And so we believe that the shareholder, going forward at least, must speak with one voice. We are committed to an energy transition, and government must say so, and we must work towards that transition. The President has announced an energy plan. We're working with the President as business to try and get that implemented quickly. That plan must drive the strategy, and anybody in government who says different should be called to account.
When it comes to also, I mean, you mentioned sabotage as, probably one of the challenges that Andre faced. When it came to corruption and him trying to obviously stop some questionable deals within government, deal with corruption, do you think at all that that could be part of the reason why maybe he has decided to resign now, that perhaps he wasn't seeing a lead way when it comes to not only the support from government when it comes to corruption, but also the backlash, whether internally or from other stakeholders, when it came to him dealing particularly with issues around deep-rooted corruption in Eskom?
Yeah, look, I mean, I don't know what the impact impact on him as a person was, whether he received backlash, whether he received threats, whether his family was threatened or anything of that sort. Obviously, I don't know that, but that must take its toll. And one of the issues we've raised consistently is that, again, no matter who the CEO is, the CEO cannot deal, and Eskom cannot deal with what are essentially issues of law and order. And we previously called on government to send in a crack intelligence and law and order team to deal with sabotage, to deal with ongoing corruption. And that's the sort of support that we would expect from the shareholder in this particular instance. And we haven't seen that in any big way yet. And that could certainly be one of the reasons why they resigned. We obviously don't know the details of why they resigned. And going forward, that's a critical element that government needs to deal with, because it is a law and order issue, and government is responsible for law and order.
Cas, we'll leave it there, and I appreciate you speaking to me this morning. Cas Coovadia, Busa CEO, joining us this morning about, Andre De Ruyter's resignation, giving us more of their reaction, but further emphasizing that obviously issues around law and order in Eskom will need to be addressed, and quite urgently, but equally saying so that, of course, Andre's resignation is going to be quite a major blow, of course, for industry.